What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. For the first time in 4 years, China has reopened travel to parts of Taiwan. But new revisions to Beijing's national security law have Taiwanese officials concerned. Our reporter Tiffany Wang is in Taipei with us. Tiffany, why is Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council worried about this? And what's in this security law?
Now, the Mainland Affairs Council is warning that the new amendments to China's law on guarding state secrets are vague and lack transparency. They say that they could lead to an increased risk of arbitrary arrest. And they're continuing their warnings that Taiwanese people should not travel to China unless necessary. Now, the new security law expands its scope to include work secrets, things that are not quite state secrets, but could cause what they say are adverse effects if leaked. This has raised concerns for some foreign businesses, and there are over 100,000 Taiwanese business people operating in China. Now, the law also requires internet providers to report any suspected leaks and comply with any investigations.
At the same time, China recently announced it would reopen travel with Taiwan, allowing visitors from the Chinese province of Fujian to go to Taiwan's Mazu Islands. What do these decisions signal for cross-strait relations?
Well, this would mark the first time that independent travel from China to Taiwan has been allowed since 2019. And the decision came after Taiwan's opposition Kuomintang legislators led a delegation to China. They were hoping to reopen tourism across the Taiwan Strait. Now, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council says that they'll welcome these Chinese tourists, but that China should really open up travel from all parts of China to all parts of Taiwan. Here's what the Mainland Affairs Minister had to say.
如果你要让这22万人有工作可以做，是要大陆赶快放他的人过来啊！他到现在才放马祖而已啊，1年6500个人，一天不到18个。
Taiwan's tourism sector has been suffering since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and at its peak, over 40% of tourists came from China. Now, Taiwanese tourists are allowed to go to China independently, but not in tour groups, and that has not changed. But as the state secrets law goes into effect, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council is warning Taiwanese citizens that they can never be too careful when traveling in China.
Thanks, Tiffany. That was our reporter Tiffany Wang live for us in Taipei. Solomon Islands Foreign Minister Jeremiah Manele has beaten longtime opposition leader Matthew Wale to become the Pacific nation's new prime minister. The elections had been closely watched by the United States and Australia because of what they mean for China's influence in the Pacific. Louis Watt is in Honiara with the latest.
The Solomon Islands has a new prime minister, and he's expected to continue the close relationship this Pacific island nation has developed with China. The Solomon Islands' newly elected members of parliament voted in Foreign Minister Jeremiah Manele. In the past, election results here have been met with violence. Manele said that would only destroy people's livelihoods.
We must respect and uphold the democratic process of electing our Prime Minister and set an example for our children and their children.
He replaces Manesse Sogavare. They're from the same party, but Sogavare did not run for Prime Minister this time. He cut ties with Taiwan in favor of China, a decision that was not popular with large parts of the public. Manele beat an opposition leader, Matthew Wale. Wale said he would hold public consultations on whether the country should continue its relations with China or re-establish ties with Taiwan. Whereas a lot of people are wary of China, Manele won the support of more MPs. To foreign partners, he's a known entity, but a lot of people here wanted change. Seeing the same party in power will be a disappointment. Klein Wong and Louise Watt in Honiara, Solomon Islands for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has reported the highest number of domestic dengue fever cases for this time of year since 2016. The country's Centers of Disease Control has confirmed one new domestic case at the end of April, bringing the total so far to 163. Officials say recent rainfall has created more breeding sites for mosquitoes which can carry the disease. With mosquito concentrations on the rise, especially in southern Taiwan, people are being urged to get rid of any stagnant water and protect themselves from the insects. New standards for discipline in elementary and middle schools are on the way, and as John Venturez reports, they're proving controversial.
A beloved student tradition gets a bit out of hand. Taipei's Cheonggong High School tolerates its graduating class tossing their books and papers out the windows at the end of exams. When one student set off fireworks amid the paper avalanche, even though they were warned not to, administrators were a bit taken aback. But there are national standards for discipline in high schools, so the school knew how it was allowed to punish the offender. In elementary and middle schools, such rules don't yet exist. Each region of Taiwan has so far been allowed to make its own decisions. That looks about to change, though. The Education Ministry plans to put a new code of standards in effect this August. The rules were only announced Wednesday, but already the education sector is talking about them. Views are mixed.
包含到时候可以跟校外机构，也许是警察单位等等求助，我觉得这是有定的。在整个法规上、常规面上，我觉得还是 OK 的。只是说呢，很可能需要引导大家去怎么样去定法规才是合理的。
One NGO is worried about several particular changes, mainly the fact that teachers won't be able to police uniforms or what might be considered inappropriate behavior, like public displays of affection. Teachers can write to guardians and ask students to write a self-reflection, but they're overall expected to react with positive reinforcement.
因为你是准则嘛，那准则的意思是说，不管你们开会结果状况如何，这些东西是我不会罚的，也不会去碰的。
Taiwan school rules have changed rapidly in recent years. It only officially banned corporal punishment in schools in 2006. But where to draw the line between students' rights and teachers' ability to control the classroom and build good character is a question that's still not settled. John Su and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thousands of Filipinos have rallied outside the U.S. Embassy in Manila against U.S.-Philippine military drills as part of Labor Day protests. An alliance of unions and labor groups called for an increase in national wages and for U.S. troops to leave the country. They say the U.S. military presence only increases tensions with China and does not improve the Philippines' defense. Philippine President Marcos Jr. has strengthened military ties with the United States since taking office. The two countries are concluding their annual Balikatan joint military exercises. 10 Maoist rebels are dead after a gun battle with security forces in central India. The fighting in Chhattisgarh state comes after an April 16th clash in which 29 rebels were killed. The Maoists have been waging a guerrilla war in the region for decades and say they are fighting for the rights of farmers and laborers. This latest outbreak of violence comes as India hosts national elections in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is seeking a rare third term in office. Widespread demonstrations supporting Palestinians at universities across the United States have erupted into violent clashes with pro-Israeli counter-protesters. The demonstrations, which are taking place at over 100 campuses in the country, are calling for divestment from Israel and a ceasefire in Gaza. Rosie Granger reports.
A peaceful demonstration turned violent.
Watch out! Watch out!
At the University of California in Los Angeles, activists calling for an end to the war in Gaza were surrounded by pro-Israeli counter-protesters, shooting fireworks into the encampment and diffusing pepper spray. Physical altercations also erupted between the two groups. Police arrived hours later to break up the confrontation.
I think that it's kind of foolish that law enforcement didn't decide to step in when people were being beaten with metal bats, maced, yelling very threatening things, very disgusting things, when in reality, everybody that's in the encampment, that's not what they're there for. It has been a peaceful protest.
Dozens of injuries have been reported at UCLA, including at least one hospitalization. Hours earlier in New York, police broke into a building being occupied by pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia University and cleared the encampment they set up on school grounds.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Over 100 students were arrested, many saying they were injured in what they're calling a violent confrontation. Police were brought in at the university president's request, after protesters shrugged off the school's ultimatum to abandon the encampment or face suspension. Protests at this school over Israel's war on Gaza began 2 weeks ago, with students calling for the university to cut financial ties to Israel. It sparked the movement that has spread to colleges across the country. Professors from the university condemned the school's choice to call in police and stood in solidarity with the students' movement.
This is not about Columbia or CCNY or Berkeley or UCLA or any other place where the students have risen up. This is the conscience of a nation speaking through your kids, through young people who are risking their futures, who are risking suspension, expulsion, criminal arrest in order to wake people up in this country.
Some of the teachers drew parallels between this activism and the student-led movement at Columbia in 1968 against American involvement in the Vietnam War. At the City College of New York, anti-war demonstrators also clashed with police. There have been many such confrontations at schools across the country, leading to more than 1,000 arrests in the last 2 weeks. Politicians across party lines are condemning the protest action, but activists stand defiant.
You must create your own campus agitations. University business cannot continue as usual amidst a genocide. Rest assured that history will absolve many of us, but certainly not all of us.
We will not fear.
At Brown University in Rhode Island, student protesters have peacefully dismantled their encampment after the school's leaders agreed to vote on divesting from companies that supply weapons to Israel. But other universities are yet to acknowledge demonstrators' requests. Despite the recent violence, students are continuing to protest on college grounds, and some are taking to the streets, showing no sign of backing down as they call for an end to the violence in Gaza. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Mass anti-government protests have rocked Georgia as the country's parliament votes to advance a controversial bill on foreign agents. The bill would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from overseas to register as foreign agents. Critics say it's inspired by similar legislation in Russia. Protesters against the bill have been taken to the streets nightly for almost a month. But the latest development brought out tens of thousands to the center of the capital, Tbilisi. Police responded with tear gas and stun grenades. The health ministry said 11 people, including 6 police officers, have been treated for injuries following the clashes. Art lovers in Taiwan are in for a treat as Tainan City's Chime Museum hosts works from London's National Gallery. The masterpieces from the National Gallery exhibitions features 52 original paintings by renowned artists like Van Gogh and Monet. It will run through September, giving visitors a chance to peer into 400 years of European art history. The Tainan exhibition is the collection's final stop on an Asian tour, which has attracted hundreds of thousands of visitors. Its organizers are calling it a once-in-a-century opportunity. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we travel to the Louvre in Paris. This painting, Liberty Leading the People, by French painter Eugène Delacroix, has just returned from a 6-month-long restoration. I'm Yvonne Young. Take care, and I'll see you next time.